welcome back. This is English Cooking on Benefits with Alison. So today I thought we could do a Cornish pasty. Now it's nearly a traditional, but as my programme is dedicated to people who are on benefits or on very low income, we can't really afford to get the diced beef, okay? So I'm going to use some corned beef today. Now, the Cornish tin miners had their pasties at lunchtime. So their wives in the morning would make their food, their pasty. Now, if you'd like to come a bit closer, this is what traditionally was in there. We have got onions, potatoes, and turnip. Okay, and that is your traditional mix. Now, I'm not adding any seasoning to this because the corned beef is quite salty and peppery on its own, so you don't want to overload that, okay? Now, in the mornings, the tin miners used to go out to work and their wives would put together this pasty, okay? Which they would then slowly cook all morning so that their husbands could have their lunch. And when the pasties were cooked, what they used to do, the wives used to go to the mines and they used to shout out, "Oggy, oggy, oggy," to say to their husbands, "Your dinner's ready." And the husbands, if they were ready for their lunch, would say, "Oi, oi, oi," back. Now the pasties, there's the meat going on the top, all your veg has gone in there. The pasties were usually kept in a tin container and they were lowered down into the tin mining pit. Now, I've had a lot of people ask me how many crimps are on a Cornish pasty. My actual relatives are Cornish. My granddad and going back are Cornish on my mother's side, and it's usually 20 crimps. Now, in those crimps, the initials would go on, the initials of their husband. So if I was a Cornish wife, I'd do BP for my husband, Barry, okay? And there's also a really, really fun superstition as well, which I'll tell you about in a bit. But the main reason for their initials going on is that sometimes they used to stop eating to do a bit more work and they put their pasty down and the initials were so they could know which pasty was theirs. Now, another good reason why the crimping is very, very important is that because you've got tin miners and in tin there's arsenic, so the arsenic would be on their fingers, so the only way they could eat the pasty was to pick it up by the crust. Okay, now this is where I'm getting to the superstitious part. The initials on the crust also refers to the little mischievous pixies that used to live down the tin mines, and they used to cause the miners a lot of trouble. And when the miners had finished eating their pasty, they used to throw the crust away. So they used to throw it over their shoulders so that these little pixies, or knockers as they were called, could actually see who had thrown their pasty crust to them so they could eat them and they wouldn't bother them for that day. But that is superstition, but it's a great one, really good. Now, traditional Cornish pasty obviously would have skirt beef in this. I'm using corned beef. And also, your traditional Cornish pasty, they'd have a savoury part and a sweet. So they'd have their savoury and then they'd have the sweet for after. So there needs to be like a little wall in between. So that's what we're going to do, and I'm hoping this is going to work. Now, we've heard of Mary Berry's soggy bottoms. We don't want Alison Palmer's soggy middles. So let's see. And that's how they used to separate it, with that. Okay. Now, I picked the corned beef up for a couple of quid. Okay. The pastry was £1.30. I used tinned vegetables here, look, that was 55p. And I've got a little bit of pineapple chunks here, because I do know my husband is a bit partial to that, which was 50p. So if you're making 4 or more. So I suppose each one of these has cost you about 75p to make, which isn't bad actually. Right, now we're going to try and put the sweet in, okay? You don't need to add a lot to this because we don't want it to go too soggy. Now this is the important part. I hope this pastry does come off. Yay! I used to work in Gloucestershire. I used to work for the Falmouth Pasty Company, and we did actually make traditional Cornish pasties. Let's see if I can get the 20 crimps in. I'm not sure whether I can. If you want to come in a little bit closer, make sure everything's all tucked in. Let's brush some of that pastry away. Now a Cornish pasty is always crimped on the side. If you ever buy a pasty that's crimped on the top, which is that crimp, that's called a Devonshire pasty. This is a Cornish pasty. So we're going to fold, crimp it together. There we go. That is how you crimp it. That's it. Thanks, Mr. P. So tuck, fold, tuck, fold, tuck, fold, tuck, until we go all the way round, and that is crimping, okay? And then you fold it. And that is what your Cornish pasty should look like once you've finished. Now we're going to put a little bit of egg wash on there. Shall I put my husband's initials in there? Let's have a look. Let's see if we can do it. Where's my knife? It's a quite small print, so we're going to put a little B just there. It's not very good. Just egg wash. You can put a little bit of milk with it if you want to give it a nice brown texture. Another interesting fact is that the fishermen, when the Cornish pasty was done, the fishermen started to it started to really take off in Cornwall, and apparently the tin miners were a little bit annoyed at this because their trade was going away from them. So it was actually deemed to be unlucky to have a Cornish pasty on your fishing boat, which is right. Okay, fine. Right, I'm going to transfer that on some baking sheet, which luckily does come with the pastry anyway, okay? And we're going to put it in our oven at about 190 degrees, fan assisted, 200 if it's not. And I'm going to slam that in, and we'll see how it turns out, savoury and sweet with a little divider. And I'll see you guys in about 25 minutes. Hello, welcome back. Now that's been about 20-25 minutes in the oven at 200. And here we go. Now look at that, beautiful. Okay, that is your Cornish pasty. Let's just, because it's been on greased beef paper, there we go, it's easy. Ooh, hot, 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 hot. Now let's see whether this has worked. So we should have savoury this end and the sweet that end. So we've got, let's cut through. There's your savoury, if you can get in there. The meat on the top. There we go. Okay. Right, everybody cross your fingers. Let's go. Has it stayed separate? Yes, and the cat is very interested. It has, look at that. And there's your sweet, that's the pineapple here, look. Can you see that? So there we have our traditional Cornish pasty. I hope you've really enjoyed it. I'm going to be doing Toad in the Hole next week, so I hope you watch that too. So our Cornish pasty with a little bit of history thrown in. And I hope you have a lovely weekend and stay safe. Bye.